Welcome to the Let It Bleed podcast, a place where you can hear the liquor-fueled ramblings of two narcissistic wizards who conjure the essence of inspirational people every week and bring it straight to you.
And just how do you plan on doing that? Magic. Motherfucker.
And now for the wizards themselves, David Amaya and Phil Arroyo.
Yo,
All right, you good?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh man, a whole hell of a lot, man. Just packing up, trying to get ready to ship on out of here for E3.
You're shipping right off again?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just going to LA, so it's not like, not far or anything.
Okay.
Going downtown, so gotta be there in 3.5 hours.
Downtown, where something I don't know. Those stupid
Things will be
lyrics.
greater.
They will
Well,
be.
I know things will be wider. That's for sure.
Traffic will be worse. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So the E23 is that's what it's called, right? E23.
The Electronic Entertainment Expo, E3.
So E3. So did Disney bite off of them, or did they bite off of Disney? Because Disney does this thing called D23.
I think that thing is fairly new. E3 has been going on for like 20 years.
Okay.
It's been like the premier gaming convention of the world, basically, for pretty much since they made video games.
Okay. So dope. Well, and what are we going there for? You're going to be on the floor going over which game? Is it
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't talk about that, actually.
Oh, really? Okay, well then
Yeah, this is one of those things where I'm like, ooh, I get all the fun shit, but we can't talk about it. So we got a press conference coming up on next Monday where we're going to release everything. We always do like a big, show. We have people come in, big celebrities host it and stuff like that. Then we do all these presentations and unveil the games that we're working on this year or new ones to come down the line.
So
it's always exciting, man. I love this time of year.
But basically, it's like this is like the Comic-Con specifically for video games, but like you're gonna release it for like the ultimate true hardcore fans that go there first, and then give the general public the knowledge afterward on Monday.
Not so much hardcore fans as it is like journalists and people who make content, like people who stream on Twitch and make YouTube videos and stuff.
Okay, well those are in a sense hardcore gamers and fans and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a good way to put it. So we go over there. We do a little of our thing over there. We're not going to have a whole lot, I think, new. We don't really show anything off until actually the press conference because they don't try like. A lot of the people that are working for me will not know what it is until Monday at the press conference.
Okay.
We try to keep that way on lock.
Oh, okay.
Because leaks are prevalent and they suck.
Right.
And so we're not trying to have any of that, especially this guy. So I ain't doing that.
For sure. No. Well, then say no more. Excited for you to go do that. That's pretty fucking cool. Yeah. Well, we're getting it in again on the phone with each other. We've gotten kind of used to this. It was nice last week to have somebody on, but we're doing it.
Posting that up next week.
Yeah, the good thing is that we're doing shit, we're making moves, and being busy is a good thing. And so,
with that big dick energy.
With that big dick energy, yeah, that's like one of the things that kids have said in the last couple of years that I actually like. I think that it's also very appropriate to go around and say, like, Dad, where's your big dick energy at? Let's go. We got to go fucking clean out this backyard. Except,
I think first of all, a really weird example. I'm thinking you can't declare yourself to have big energy. Like something with big dick energy has to happen.
Right. Oh,
also,
okay.
And I think inherently, if you're like, hey, Dad, you got a big dick, that's not big dick energy.
Yeah,
that is like that's Alanis Morissette level ironic. You know what I mean?
So like stuff that's not really ironic, just shitty.
Yeah, just kind of weird and tangential. Yeah, exactly.
Like rain on your wedding day. Like that's not really ironic. That's just shitty.
Yeah.
That's just a shitty
bad
situation.
Luck is not the same thing as irony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So unless you have control over that sort of thing, the weather. As I've watched these videos and. I think they're real of them controlling the weather patterns and shit, or at least like being able to create clouds and rain and shit. Have you seen anything like that?
Well, Yeah, I mean, it's Pride Week, you know, and as you know, homosexuality and free expression of sexuality in general is an abomination against God. And that's where all this, this rain and stuff like that is coming from.
Okay, that's that.
Yeah.
So it's them that's doing it. Okay, because I saw
Don't you watch Fox News? What
I
the
saw
fuck?
this crazy ass video of this guy, and I think he was British. It was like at this place where there was just, I don't know, my memory on like exactly what the structure was is kind of vague. It was like, I don't know, something to like the effect of like a windmill sort of thing, or like a big machine or a mill that like created this like energy in these clouds that went out and like fucking they made it rain. Like they fucking literally made it rain. And it was a trip because I've heard about this sort of, I think there was like a really shitty movie that came out recently, or I saw trailers for it that I'm not sure if it came out, but it was kind of like a 2012 disaster type movie, but with the premise being that it was the government or us controlling the weather and fucking things up. So anyway.
Oh, I have not heard of that.
Yeah.
But was it a documentary? Because that's exactly what's happening.
Well, I figured that it tied into that. That's kind of why I, switched over to talking about that. Because that's fucking weird, man. And it might, I don't know if it has anything to do with the weird ass weather patterns that we've been having, here. It's just stuff that's a little bit unusual, like getting rain much later than we usually do, and like having it so much more.
Absolutely. So it's climate change in action. We're seeing it unfold right now.
Right.
A new report just came out that if we do nothing by 2050, we'll have decimated 90% of the population on Earth.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I definitely understand like climate change is responsible for a large part of this too. Is responsible for pretty much everything, but
yeah.
This other shit, I'm not sure if it like is supposed to.
You're talking about, I think they put like silver oxide or something like that in the air. They pump that out to like try to induce more rain and stuff.
So that's a much better and a better way of describing it, because that's probably exactly what it is. Yeah, it was a fucking trip to see that, and I was just wondering, like, are they doing that because of global warming? Like, are they doing it to like combat it, or was that something that they've been doing, just on their own, and it actually hinders things worse? I don't know.
I would imagine that like being able to induce more clouds that could reflect sun rays and stuff like that and try to bounce stuff off would. And I feel like I have heard of some kind of initiatives like that with that kind of being the general idea behind the plan, but I don't know specifically myself offhand without having like that kind of stuff researched in front of me.
Yeah, we're two guys that don't know shit about this, but it's something to look into. It's something to go check out and see, and let us know. Tell us, because I'm fucking curious myself, and I guess I could look it up myself.
Light up those phone lines.
Yes, yeah, exactly. 1-800 fucking I don't know. Help me out here.
Go fuck yourself. But you have to do it with T9.
Oh, okay.
You have to like text us, but only with the buttons, like we used to have to on like our sidekicks and shit.
Oh shit.
Oh wait, no, sidekicks you didn't have to, but like the Motorola Razors, you know what I mean?
Right.
You got to work for it.
Ancient technology.
Oh man. Well, speaking of ancient technology, I am like so upset that aliens exist, and it doesn't even make like the C block on the news. You know what I mean? Did you see this?
No,
this week
I did not.
Yeah, the New York Times ran a story that the Navy, I guess, basically announced like, yeah, we have encountered UFOs, things that just defy all logic. They don't look like they're physically possible. They've had multiple run-ins with them. They've had Navy people coming out with it. They had video evidence and shit like that. And yeah, basically the world is so fucked. Nobody really noticed or talked about it.
Well, does this actually surprise you though? That like, I mean, the idea
that we've had encounters with aliens? A little bit, yeah.
Oh, see, no, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Like, the fact that there were, and this goes to the conspiracy theory fucking nut shit, that I've always kind of like entertained, but with a lot of the crazy shit that's out there that's bogus and untrue, there's a lot of other things that are just too fucking weird to just not, consider the possibility of these things being real. And that is especially with the greatest one of all, is like, you know, is there other shit out there that we don't know about? And the fact that there are these like these literal bases that you are not allowed to go anywhere near in our country, that people have like these like really fucking weird like, you know, tales and stories about, but they're so specific and so the witnesses that tell these things are just like so fucking sure about these like exact alien races that are being, you know, held there and shit like that. You know, you got to figure a lot of it is batshit crazy nonsense being made up, but then there's got to be something to it. And so the idea that the Navy's finally coming out with this shit while our, you know, nation is in shambles, it doesn't surprise me as much as that. But, you know, and also it doesn't surprise me as much that it hasn't made it to the news, because, you know, why would it? Like, look at the way that shit is.
It has. I've seen it mentioned in passing, and then, you know,
but nobody's talking about it.
They go on to something else.
Nobody's like making a big deal. It's like the guy who burned himself you know, set himself ablaze.
Which a day has not gone by that I have not thought about the guy who fucking set himself on fire last week.
And didn't.
And literally, I have not seen one person talking about it.
Yeah, and everybody that I tell, they're like, dude, you're like the only person I've heard that from. And I'm like, I have no idea why this is.
How pissed must that guy be? Like, holy shit.
Well, you know, we can confirm for sure that it was a man, in fact, and like they still to this day have not given like a good reason or talked more into like why he did it. All they said was that he, you know, that they were concerned for his mental health, that he was missing for like a small amount of time, and his family was concerned for his mental health. There was no like sign or letter or anything left behind, at least that I know of or have read about, that, you know, explains him going and doing this. The only thing I could think that confirms it was obviously, you know, a protest, was that he was on the he was at the White House, and his shirt, he was wearing a USA sweatshirt. You know, and I mean, that's pretty vague, but it still seems like, okay.
Well, that's kind of
it. I don't know. I mean,
it's a sign.
It's something like, you know, he obviously planned how he was going to do it, because he set himself off to where it, like, you know, the flames are so, you could just tell by looking at the flames, like how orange they are and stuff. And they are disturbing images for sure. There's like a very disturbing images.
It's hard to look at,
you know, of him burning himself alive. But the reason why, you know, it sounds like a joke to say now, but the reason why at the time I thought, like, what if this was like some sort of fucking robot? Because of the fact that he was just walking. You know, walking, like, first he was running, and then he was just walking around, like, engulfed in this massive flame that people were like, he should have, like, collapsed a long time ago. You know, there's the fact that he was walking like that was just so fucking mind-boggling, you know? Anyway, again, this thing that fucking happened, I just don't know why it wasn't bigger news. And at least, you know, a couple days after the whole Mueller coming out and telling everybody that we need to impeach the president, I can understand that that's going to take precedent over something like that, but I'm just shocked that nobody's really said anything.
And nobody, I'm just looking it up now, nobody really knows, like, yeah, I mean, he died that night, and nobody, it's kind of a mystery. That's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that makes people wonder, like, wait, what the fuck? Like, what? There's got to be more to this. There's more to this story than just, you know, a guy that had a mental illness and did this. Like, did he work for the government? Did he know something? I mean, and that's, but yeah, that's not.
No, I mean, they got a profile on him here. They're like, yeah, he just 33-year-old man. Like, yeah, it looks, I don't know. People were troubled for his physical and emotional welfare when he went missing, and then yeah, that was it. You know, people were like, oh, it's kind of crazy. He didn't hold like extreme views or anything like that politically.
Right. That's what I meant before, like, you know, when we were just like, okay, it's obviously a protest, but it, you know, if he didn't leave any sort of, you know, manifesto or like sort of anything behind for anybody to read, like, it's just kind of, you're right, you know, like if he was just hoping that the act alone would stand out, fuck. That just really sucks for him.
And I normally make fun of your you know, hypothesis that he might have been some kind of robot or android, but you know, aliens existed this week, so fuck it. You know, what do I know?
So wait, okay,
like,
tell me more though about this. I want to go back to this because I did act kind of like a fucking douche about, like, Oh yeah, no, totally, they exist. But like, what? So what are they saying other than the fact that they're just kind of admitting that they've encountered unidentified flying objects? Which, by the way, people have been saying and coming out from the military for a while, you know, and it's just it's never been an official like a statement from the military. So it is kind of groundbreaking. So
yeah, it is kind of crazy. And honestly, I was actually looking up because I saw somebody, I read a thread on Twitter like a week or two ago about somebody was making a direct tie between Tom DeLonge getting out of Blink-182 to like explore, you know, to like investigate aliens and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And somebody like tied all the dots to that, and they're like, oh shit, he went out to make this thing, and this group went out, like he started this group who went up and then pressured these guys and then like did interviews with the Navy and shit like that. It's like, oh shit, Tom DeLonge basically discovered aliens. Like,
you know, I don't know about, I don't want to give him too much credit for that. I think that he definitely has been into it, but to say that he discovered it, like, he also, when he was, did you see him go on the Joe Rogan podcast and talk about stuff?
I did not.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you're listening to him say stuff and it was kind of like, I don't know. I don't really, you're on here, obviously saying that you have all of this information and that you want to tell it, but then you can't say anything about this or that, like, but yet you're saying this that is already, it's already like, you know, getting you into the trouble that you're trying to avoid by supposedly not telling this side of the story. And so there was a lot of that where it was just like, I don't know how much this guy is just kind of like keeping the mystery built up when there's really nothing behind it. I don't know. That's what I got from him anyway. And the fact that there have been so many other people that have really, you know, gone out and put out actual like documents to show and prove these things that have just been like pushed to the side just because the, you know, Navy or NASA or whatever else won't actually acknowledge them. You know, it's kind of sad to say that Tom DeLonge discovered aliens or discovered the life, you know, for me.
Yeah, I wish I could find that again. I've actually been trying to find some more sourcing for that, so I didn't just drop it and then have to walk away. But like, that's actually why I didn't have the actual, like, you know, New York Times shit up. Okay. But to paraphrase it that I got in front of me here, one of the vehicles in question is said to have resembled a giant Tic Tac the size of a commercial airplane, and the UFOs were able to, quote, accelerate, slow down, and then hit hypersonic speeds. Another is said to be, quote, like a sphere encasing a cube. These UFOs seem to stay airborne all day, despite having no apparent source of energy. According to the latest, quote, Times story, they appeared almost daily from the summer of 2014 to March 2015 in the skies above the East Coast. So shit like that, and there's actual, you know, they're saying that they've seen footage. I've seen a clip of something, but I'm not sure if that was like right or not. I didn't vet the little clip that I saw, and they've got actual Navy pilots who are out there putting their name on it, and saying like, no, for real, like we saw this. Like, I'm a high-ranking Navy officer, and I wouldn't just go and talk some wild shit. Just, you know, I'm not like Cletus hunting Bigfoots, and I happen to see an alien. Like, no, it is.
Well, first of all, do not disgrace fucking Cletus, because Cletus is fucking, you know, they fucking Bigfoot.
You found him a squatch.
They found him the squatch, bro. But anyway, sorry about that. So this was like, was it just accounts of these Navy officers, these high-ranking officers, or was it like an actual official Navy press release?
No, it was a whole article that came out like in the New York Times about this.
Okay. And so
and it's behind a paywall, so I can't read it myself.
And so what do you think is the main reason why it's not circulating? Why is it not getting any traction? Like, what the fuck? Like, why isn't it bigger news? Why, now that this credible source is putting it out there, why are people not jumping on it? Do you think it's just outright distraction from other stuff, or do you think that there are bigger forces at play in preventing it from really getting out there any further?
Well, I think it's because we don't know, really. We don't know what we saw. You know, there could be some kind of terrestrial explanation for this, you know,
sure,
new technology or some crazy shit, weapons tests or something. But until like we know, you know, nobody wants to go out there and make a definitive, claim there. And plus, it sounds fucking crazy still.
Well, that's
yeah.
kind of, in that one documentary, Unacknowledged. Have you ever seen it?
No.
So there's a documentary called Unacknowledged, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he is on there giving some pretty compelling and information that's just like, what the, like, it just seems so, yeah, here it is. You can look it up for yourself and check this out. All of this stuff has happened, and it's all of these things that you kind of just can't deny, that whether it's terrestrial or extraterrestrial, it's way beyond what we like realize is actually going on. These things that exist way beyond the technological capacity for what we believe we have right now. I mean, we can even imagine, we know that we're onto some bigger and crazier things. There's always something in the works, but it's not only, beyond that, but it really is confirming the, the age old question, like, is there other life out there? And, if it becomes to the point where it's like, okay, there's no one single man out there or groups of men that are just designing this stuff without like it getting out there. They're getting this sort of information from somebody else, or something else. So there's some other like level of intelligence that is passing this technology on, if it is in fact terrestrial.
Yeah, man. I've been pretty floored by shit. We get so used to the idea of America being the ones who invent all of this really crazy shit, especially when it comes to weapons technology and things like that, and really, just really pushing that envelope there. But my God, there are tons of things out there that have been invented by the people as we've fallen behind in that space that, still kind of consistently blow me away. There was what was it? I wish I could remember it right now. I don't have this up in front of me, but it was a bunch of people like got sick and died, kind of unexplained. I think it was in like on a cruise. It was on some kind of ship maybe. And people were thinking, hey, maybe this is a weapon that like the United States has been trying to develop, but maybe somebody like China or Russia had already done it, and like this is the effect that we think it would have, like a microwave gun or something like that. And I was hearing China like developed a rail gun and shit, and like basically lasers, and Russia's got beluga whale spies. Like shit's crazy out there, dude.
Yeah. I mean, and I've always wondered though, like, where does that next level innovation come from? Like those crazy leaps that take you from, from one little technological, accomplishment to just like, whoa, like, we have the phone 1 minute, and in a relative amount of time, it's like not that long before we fucking have, some crazy shit. We've got fucking,
I mean, it's wild, man. Have you seen these Huawei phones and what they can do?
No, man. And I don't, but like
oh man, it's this Chinese tech that is just insane. They've banned it over here, because I think the official reason that they don't trust it, they don't trust that in 5G and all those networks and technology that were made by the Chinese, which are a complete like dystopian, Big Brother is watching, autocracy level that they've got over there. So shit is not going good. I know we talked about when Xi Jinping, I think I got that right. Fuck. Okay, don't at me. The Prime Minister of China, he when he kind of grabbed power and held it on for himself, and now it is just, they've got the full-on like social capital social media thing. It's like that Black Mirror episode where you get to rate people, and like that rating is determined on whether they get to like travel abroad, get the rates for insurance and stuff like that, medical care, all this shit.
Wow.
It's it is pretty kind of fucked up over there. And so I think that was the reason that they're not they're not okay bringing that technology in until it can get vetted and stuff like that. But I've even seen, I saw this, it was a phone camera, I guess, but the zoom on it was, I literally have no idea how that is possible. I did not think it was physically possible.
What?
But it was a zoom that, like, I swear to God, I could see, like, you could from my window, I could like read the neighbor's paper across the street.
What?
Yeah. I saw this video and I was just like, what the fuck? It's crazy.
That is crazy. Another crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will look it up and I will find it and show it to you.
And also after that, I want you, if on your own or whatever, to look up this just to search it, because I read one article and it seemed like it was, I forget what website it was from, but talking about a guy who is like the founder and creator of a tech company that is like developing some new shit, and was saying that within 20 years he predicts that a Google brain chip will be starting to be put into people's brains to help them memorize things. It'll basically allow you to never really need school, because it'll basically like be like the Matrix for you and just kind of program your brain to remember all of these things for you.
Fuck, I believe it, dude.
And
that's fucking crazy.
Is that not crazy? That's like so insane. And that's the kind of shit that like really, for whether you believe or not in conspiracy theories, or agree with people's crazy conspiracy theories of people like on the right, for instance, like that's the kind of stuff that only like makes their narrative so much stronger for them, because it like really, it kind of scares them, because it, in their mind, this prophecy that has been told to them for so long is actually coming true. Like, the mark of the beast, like when the beast comes back and he's going to like give you this mark. And so, they've been told, like when I used to go to church, I remember that was something that was always said. And my dad, would always tell me that stuff too, about like how at some point in the future, they might try to like mark you with a certain mark or, and this was, just the ideas back then was like a simple mark, like 666 or whatever. And then as technology advanced, they thought, well, it could probably be like a microchip, that there was talk about being put into people to, basically assess their identities and stuff like that. And I remember that there was talk about that like years and years back, but this being passed off is like something that's obviously for a lot of people who just won't even look in that direction, to consider that the other side is, like thinking like, well, this is going to be beneficial. This is going to be something that we could benefit from. But the idea of putting something in your brain, like technology in your brain, to like that could eventually essentially really control or do so much more negative things to your brain is just mind-boggling to me, no matter what you believe.
Yeah, man, that's like, I believe it. I had never considered that as being, the way that the mark, that being the sign of the apocalypse were to manifest would be through brain chips. But that kind of lines up. But what bugs me about all that shit is that there are so many people who are so diehard about this stuff, and that they literally vote on it. There are people out there, a large swath of this country, specifically evangelical Christians, who are trying to bring about the end of the world. Which is why
that stuff is devastating for me. Yeah, which is why it's devastating for me, because you see, like, where does it stop and where does it begin? And so it kind of seems like that innovation is kind of, not all innovation is good, in my opinion, because that's what that's doing, is that's creating that fear and that mindset, and you're just giving these people a way to, grow stronger, because now they have something to fear together, and they're going to have people promoting and pushing that fucking fear as much as they can.
I mean, the problem is that the technology, everybody is so super, especially in Silicon Valley and all over the world, they're so gung-ho about making this technology and just kind of not really thinking twice about the consequences of what could come of it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's with AI, especially what bugs me is the people who are working on that like instant, person impersonation video or whatever, like special effects getting so good that they could just, they could map somebody to have them act. So like you could put one person standing in front of a camera or whatever, and the technology is so good it looks like they can map it onto the president's face or some shit like that, and just make him say whatever and do whatever, and it looks almost like real.
Well,
And they've got the technology to mask voices too. It's just like we're not gonna be able to fucking trust anything soon enough. And that's, I mean, fuck, I don't know what we do at that point.
yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because I actually had a really good conversation with an animator for video games, and he's one of the guys who worked on Red Dead Redemption 2, which,
cool.
I mean, I'm not a video game guy, but you know way more than I do. And anybody
That was a pretty big fucking deal.
That was a big fucking deal, as well as, like, for somebody who's never played, who hasn't really played video games or gotten into them, that, for me, the very little bit that I played blew my fucking mind because of how realistic it was. Like the universe that was created, it was so bizarre to me how, you know, you could just walk around freely and go into these like nooks and corners and stuff, and have it be so much like places you've, you know, been to in real life, you know, and you're just like, what the fuck? And he was explaining to me all of the different animators and everybody that were on board with this, and like what they're doing, and like how, you know, kind of explaining to me in a very positive way, you know, something that is cool, like, and when you consider it for, you know, being groundbreaking in terms of like what can be done in animation, and how far we've come from like 2D animation to this level of realism that is, it you know, at a first glance can be almost indistinguishable from real life. You know, you're just kind of like, what the fuck? And you know, you're talking about a very, very scary side to that, you know, something that you're right, can be used, and we're already having a hard time in this country or this world with deciphering, you know, messages that are being put out there to us, or at least, you know, discerning as to like what to believe when, you know, news is being shared with us. It's like everybody's kind of just scared about getting fooled, or, you know, people are also just, they react too quickly to things, and it's a fucking scary time when there's just a lot of shit that's being put out there that's very contradictory to each other, and you know, you've got a lot of people that are like, what the fuck?
You've got people at the highest levels in this country who are just willing to blatantly share doctored videos and propaganda and shit like that. Just last week, I think it was, the president was the White House or somebody doctored a video of Nancy Pelosi at a meeting with him, or doing like a press conference, but they slowed it down. They slowed the clip down to make her appear drunk at certain points. And it was like, yo, we all have the other actual clip. We know this is a fake one that you guys doctored. But it didn't matter. The president was tweeting this shit out. Like, this is, you know, like, this is right.
Right.
And, like, and the full power of the White House and the White House, you know, the Justice Department, stuff like that, were all kind of behind this. And then Facebook and Twitter both refused to take it down.
Yeah.
Because they refused to be held accountable for any of the shit that's going on these platforms, including the, you know, the blatant spread of misinformation like that.
Yeah.
And that's not even the first time they've done that, too. They did that to Alex Acosta, the CNN White House correspondent, like a year ago. They took a video of him, somebody, I think it was an intern, who went and was trying to remove the mic from his hand while he was asking Sarah Sanders a question, or the president a question, I forget. And then he's like, no, excuse me. And he like kept asking his question. He wouldn't let go of the mic. And then he finally, when he was done with his, or when he got them to kind of try to answer it, he let go of the mic. And they went and they took that, and then they sped up the clip a little bit so it looked like he hit, or like he, you know, like kind of forcefully like gave the mic to the like intern or whatever. And then they went and cried foul over that, saying that, oh, he hit her and stuff like that. Like, he attacked her. He assaulted her. And they knew. They were the ones who doctored the fucking tape. And so it's like, when you've got this convergence of all these technologies and all this power and what to be doing with it, and also at the same time coming to a head is the most nakedly, you know, corrupt and criminal administration, which has been absolutely shameless in what they've been attempting to do. It doesn't bode well at all. I'm getting nervous for next year. You know, I'm thinking maybe the big guns come out for 2020 and the election and stuff like that. Who knows what the fuck they're at there? But the good news is that, like, folks like us, you know, even like kids growing up now, like, they don't there is a level of skepticism that I think has been ingrained in all of us, any of us who are somewhat tech savvy. I mean, you know, you and me, even people who are not tech savvy, people who look at stuff and go like, wait a minute. So people question stuff more, which I think is good. I don't think that would have happened even just a couple of years ago. I think people are much more discerning about the stuff that gets put out now. But it's that doesn't make it that much less troubling. You know what I mean?
It's and you know, the sad and scary part about it though is that, you know, seemingly, at least from every observation that I've had, the more you know, he's got it to a point which is really scary now, because he has, you know, passed a certain level to where now it doesn't matter whether it could be contradicted or proven wrong. Those loyal followers are going to still be loyal followers no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's what is truly terrifying. It's like, you know, in a video game, like you're now playing the evil, well, depending on which character you're playing or from what perspective, you know, like from our perspective, it's like now this boss is gonna, it's Koopa at a level that's much higher, because like he's got these like way more obstacles in the way now. And it's just fucking terrifying, because I've seen in so much more of that cognitive dissonance, just really, you know, with people I know too, you know, people I know and, you know, respect on so many levels, and that cognitive dissonance, it's partially that, and it's partially, you know, fear of losing something that people haven't attained. They'd rather protect that, and so they just kind of disregard everything else. They've kind of already put themselves into that bubble and become complacent, because it's just easier, you know. They don't want to deal with the stress.
Exactly.
And you know, and as much as I don't want to encourage that, it's tough. Like I know that making that decision is tough for people in their everyday lives, because people are stressed out. I would encourage everybody to really just, you know, not be afraid though to stand up for what's right, you know, to not let, you know, your comfort zone dictate the fate of the world, essentially. So
yeah, that's kind of exactly what's going on.
Right.
It's just easier to believe the propaganda and to
Right.
believe,
Or to,
you know, and
you
to
know,
not look into it and stuff like that. You don't have to question your own beliefs. You don't have to question whether or not you're a good person.
Well, and it's the kind of the similar scare tactic, or, you know, at least a deterrent, the way that the government, so according to in that like an Unacknowledged documentary, like what the government had done and what they had planned to do to keep skeptics or to keep, you know, people who questioned or believed or researched looking like they're crazy. And that is to, you know, when anybody talks about aliens, it was just kind of like a thing like, yeah, right, you're going to be looked at as crazy, because the government supposedly went and did this thing where they would create these fake hoaxes to be proven wrong, and they would even make a mockery of it, like at certain, you know, televised speeches and stuff like that, where they would have like a fake alien come out, and people, it would be kind of like a gag. So, you know, that sort of thing would just be pushed to the side. You know, whether that's true or not, it definitely makes a lot of sense, and it's a lot of like what they're doing right now on that side of things is like, yeah, right, fake news, blah blah blah, you know, like it'll be the well actually type of guys that will try to point out any little fucking, you know, thing that they can, that's just like cherry picking from a long list of random facts to support this crazy big conspiracy that they have made up in their mind, which is only a scapegoat for them to just not have to care. You know, it's crazy that they would spend a level of energy and that intellect into trying to be so contradictory to things that are so plain and outright in your face, just so that they can not have to say anything, you know, or, you know, not have to do anything to make a change.
And not have to do any of the, like, the mental work or the mental labor to actually, you know, see the humanity in people. Not have to, especially not face the consequences of the actions that they had taken already up until that point. You know what I mean? To, like, not have to look somebody or in the eye or look and say, you know, oh, shit, like, I was all about this manga shit, but now, like, there's a lot of dead people, and it is directly related to this. Oh, shit, like, I crashed the economy in my local town because they slapped tariffs on Mexico for some reason and gave them an impossible task as an ultimatum, and it wiped out everything, or the people who voted for Trump and then their husband got deported, or and the bubble that they live in is just it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to see some cracks in the facade. Like, I don't know if you caught this last week or the week before, I forget if it was, or if I've talked about it already, but there's this Tea Party Republican in Congress, Justin Amash, who was the first one to actually break ranks with the party and say, hey guys, look, I read the Mueller report. The president did a lot of fucked up shit, and we kind of have a duty to call it out and say, hey, stop this nonsense, because it's not doing any of us any good.
Right.
The people who aren't actually directly benefiting from the cronyism like that. And yeah, he was the first one to do it. And seeing the town halls was kind of crazy that he held afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of expecting, like, okay, he was going to go back to his district and it'd just get fucking reamed by the people there. And he got standing ovation after standing ovation. And they were doing interviews with people, and I mean, some of them were blowing me away. Some of them were like, oh my God, I had no idea that the Mueller report had anything bad to say about the president.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, these people live in such a fucking insane bubble, and of course they're not going to read the Mueller report.
Right.
Like, I can see the journalists who have not done it on TV, especially when they came out all surprised that Mueller he came out and said exactly what was already in the report.
Yeah.
Laid it out, and people are just like, whoa, what? This is groundbreaking shit. And just like, no, it's not. It's just that nobody wants to do the fucking work.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, we see, I saw this, let me pivot for a second here, because I found this, somebody, posted a Facebook thing on Twitter. I mean, actually, I saw this thing the other day that was like, I thought in, 2008, like, the internet was gonna be full of all these wonderful websites, and in 2019 it's just the internet is 3 websites, and all of them are full of screenshots of the other websites.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty fucking real.
Yeah.
So I saw this Facebook post on Twitter about somebody who I think very succinctly kind of summed up a lot of these themes with this giant push against abortion, And so, if you allow me to read from this real quick. This guy, Dave Barnhart, on Facebook says, the unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated. Unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or the chronically poor, they don't resent your condescension or complain that you are not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, and religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships. And when they are born, you can forget about them, because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if by being born, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love if you want to claim you love Jesus but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners, immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, they all get thrown under the bus for the unborn.
Yeah, that's a great way of painting a good picture for people to see, and hopefully some, instead of reacting stubbornly right away and just throwing it to the curb midway, actually can take that in and learn from it, or at least open your eyes or your hearts at least to wanting to make that change. That's crazy, man. Like, that was beautiful actually. To read it.
It really struck me. So I saved that. I was like, I've got to read this shit out loud, because it was the most eloquent, way that they put that all together. And even when confronted with the blatant hypocrisy of their platform, thinking that they're the more outright one, like, this thing that I think really gave away the game is that people were asking, so hey, how do you feel about artificial insemination clinics with fertilized embryos in stasis, currently waiting to do that? If those get destroyed because they're no longer needed or wanted or viable, do you guys have a problem with that? And everybody's like, no, that doesn't count. It's not in a woman, so it doesn't count. But it's like, your whole point is that life begins at conception, and so that is to you a baby. But if you can't punish a woman for that, then Oh, okay. I guess it doesn't matter because that's really what the whole thing is about. It's about punishing women and poor people because making abortion illegal doesn't stop abortions. It just makes them deadly.
Right.
For poor people. Because rich people are always going to have access to that shit. They'll always be able to find somebody who can do it.
Well, and not to mention, the more, poor people are not going to be able to get that. Rich people will still be able to find a way to make that happen if they need to. But poor people are the ones that, it's always benefited them to have, for the poor families to have more kids, and be more poor, to stay poor, to stay hurting and everything. It's really shitty. It's benefited like the not poor. So, that shit's fucking, I don't know. I hope that people can kind of, it really feels like what's going on here is a lot of people really just hanging on by their last thread of their, faith in the religion that they've kind of slowly let things go and go and go. And, I think that's what people are holding on to. It's more or less just like not wanting to give in or, relinquish their quote unquote faith in something that they are supposed to believe in, something that their parents.
I feel like it's always been about that.
Right. But
I know
right now we're kind of
other communities, not this one. It's about community, a lot more so than that.
Right.
And I know it's I'm sorry, I kept interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, I think that through what we're seeing now as far as control and through legislation, they've already seen all of these things kind of break the way that they've had it for so long, which was, the laws that were shaped around their beliefs. And then we've had a lot of change, positive change, and definitely some progress that's happened in the last 10 or 15 years for a lot of people. And it's, like I said, kind of these people are feeling like
they're trying to wind the clock back on that.
Exactly. And so it sucks because you would just hope and wish for them to think or find out on their own. Because what I've learned is you can't really just go and tell them. If you go and tell them you're wrong, they're going to tell you, they're going to find ways to just argue it stubbornly. But if you show them, it's about trying to find ways to show them. I think that stuff like that, even just that article that you read right now was really good. A great way of painting a picture for people to hopefully see, read and think about it for a second instead of just being like, you're, telling them the obvious that they're not going to agree with. So
yeah, and I think it's been used, especially that issue in particular. It's been used as a weapon, just like faith has been used as a weapon pretty much since its inception, but especially now, it's never been more kind of nakedly obvious and apparent right there.
Right.
And that this is they get themselves all worked up. This is killing babies to them, quote unquote. And it allows them to be righteous. They get to be single issue voters and stuff like that. So they don't have to know all of the, they think they don't have to be informed voters. They just know that they want to get rid of abortion, when that has always been a cynical attempt and a stand-in for, racial attitudes and basically class warfare as well. Mm-hmm. And they're really kind of just showing their true colors there. And I think in that, you're kind of getting to see, it's like, oh, you basically got to come out as evil if you want to kind of continue with this shit, because all this abortion stuff, somebody else, and I forget who, I want to say it was maybe Marshall Wiley, or Marshall Wheeler, just empty wheel on Twitter. Anyways, I saw her go on TV the other day, and she was talking about all of these measures, these very extreme restrictive measures that are being passed in all these states along the Bible Belt that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. They are all of them. A lot of them include some punitive measure for doctors who perform abortions and stuff like that. Some of them are even threatening, jail. Threatening to jail doctors for 99 years if they perform an abortion, which is 4 times the amount of what the person who raped that 12-year-old girl, who they performed the abortion for, that person gets out 60 years before the doctor would that performed that abortion. And somebody pointed out, she's like, you know what? Hey, you cowards, why don't you prosecute me if I'm getting the abortion? if it is infanticide, if that is somebody who is going to somebody else for a service, like, isn't it the women who should be punished? Because they know that if that were part of it, if that were the thing that they were doing, people would say, hey, whoa, what? That's crazy though. Like, no, we can't do that. And people start to back off. People get squeamish when you're finally like pushing it to that limit there. And so they test the waters and they just fucking eat around the edges. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, if I mean, it's basically, it's the Holocaust camps before you know, the Allies went in there and were able to document and kind of figure out what was going on. I think if people at large knew what was happening, they would not be with it. You know, they realize, oh shit, we are the bad guys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been their strategy. And as they've kind of not gotten the memo out there all the way, you know, it's kind of crazy that they would do this. And then, you know, really when you push it to that logical end, there's no other way to say, I mean, there's no other way to slice it than like, oh shit, these people really are just, it's not about the unborn. It's about women and poor folks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what I am glad to see is that even in these places that are putting up these crazy abortion bans, which they're throwing everything at the wall, hoping something will stick so that they can push it up to the Supreme Court and ultimately overturn Roe v. Wade and make abortion illegal in this country. But you know, the most extreme things, what somebody has been passing around, which I thought was interesting, was polling numbers from all these places, and that even the policies and the laws that they're passing are massively unpopular, even with the voters who put those people in there. You know, mm-hmm. All of basically nobody. It's like 13% of the country or something like that actually wants abortion, you know, to be banned, including cases of rape, incest, and life of the mother and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's.
And so it's like, it's not just us. And so I've been I've been trying to be careful to when I paint with these brushes, when I talk about these people, to talk about the monsters themselves that are in power, and realizing that there are so many, you know, especially, you know, from 2018 up through now, I have seen so many groups and activists and just people coming out of the woodworks and being more civically involved, and, you know, participating in polling and stuff like that, and making their voices heard to say, hey, we are a group in Alabama and we fucking disdain all of this crazy shit that's going on. And that it's really, you know, it's gerrymandering. It's that the Republican Party has stopped playing by the rules. There is gerrymandering, gigantic money in political finance and stuff like that, and now they're trying to actually rig the census for 2020, which is, you know, for anybody who doesn't know, the census is every 10 years in this country. We are obligated by the Constitution to count every single person in the United States, and then power is allocated to each state, region, county, or whatever. Everything is kind of redrawn at that point, and that is how power is allocated. And so the Trump administration, they are pushing to put a question on the census, which is, are you a legal resident of the United States? Now, coupled with all of the crazy shit that they've been doing, that is going to massively depress, return of the census in, California. I mean, I don't have to explain that. People get it. If that question was on there, if people were to put that in there, that would be unreal. People, I mean, we would lose like 10 representatives in the House.
Right. Well, what's stopping people from on the census writing that they are a U.S. citizen, even if they're not, though?
I just think they would just not turn it in. They'd be like, "Whoa, fuck this! I'm not gonna put that."
It is a bullshit
campaign
thing to put on there for sure. But like, when I think about the census, it's like it's kind of crazy that, in general, that we're going off of this thing. It's like, we'll just go ahead and take an account, as best we can and figure it out. I guess that's the only way really to do it, right? But it's fucking.
Well, actually, there are some other ways to do it. Like, there are more accurate ways to actually go out and estimate, do guesses, and there are other kind of ways that could be done, which have been around for a very long time. But the thing is that if you start estimating populations and things like that, and you're actually not out there counting every single person to get replies, I mean, you get, people, I think, maybe rightfully so, would have a pretty big problem with that.
Right.
You know, with who's doing the estimating, what are the processes of this like, and you're leaving the account.
But what I wonder is like, what are you gonna, if they're reaching out to you, what is it, by mail? Like how, and you just respond, like what's to stop people from responding for other people?
That is a good question. I think they have it. I don't know, actually. I don't know the details of that stuff, because I know I had some friends who were working on it in 2010 when it was going around, and I don't know the details of exactly how all that stuff gets kind of filled out and filed away.
Right.
But that is an interesting question. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you know, this I guess there was this Republican strategist who died at some point this year, like a couple months ago, and his daughter or granddaughter was like going through some old hard drives of his and found all these notes and research about you know, about the census, and did all this work on figuring out how big of an impact adding a citizenship question to the census would be. And it was, you know, it was basically him just stating, oh, it would clearly be disadvantageous to the Democrats and advantageous to Republicans and non-Hispanic whites. And that's a quote. And she went, what the fuck? And she just immediately went to the news and, you know, turned that in. And it's the same language that is actually appearing in a lot of the legal briefs that are arguing in favor of keeping the citizenship question on the census, which is now, it's being challenged left and right in the courts and stuff like that. And I'm sure they're hoping to bring it up to the Supreme Court, where they have kind of illegitimately packed it. Everything basically is going up to the Supreme Court. That's the point of a lot of this stuff. And with the idea that they want to, you know, basically entrench power and rig it for, you know, the next 10 years to come. And so this came to light this week, and it's the same language that's used in a lot of these legal briefings. And so I just thought that was an interesting development. Like, you didn't have to look very hard or make a very compelling case to say, oh shit, this is exactly what it looks like on its face. You guys are just trying to entrench power. But now we have the receipts. We've got the actual documentation, correspondence back and forth, dead to rights. So I would hope that is enough evidence to persuade even the most corrupt of judges to rule in favor of keeping that question off of the census. But it's one of the most important fights out there right now.
Yeah.
And so actually, as we're coming up to the close of our hour here too.
Well, I did want to say real quick to kind of touch back up on a thing that you mentioned earlier, something, because we always have like a good moment where we talk about our shows and movies that we're watching. I know we're not going to get into that now, but one that I did finally just cap off is the small series that I think everybody really should go watch, because you can draw, you know, and not only is it just a great series, a mini series, but it also really kind of shows you a side of government and you know, the way people live that is terrifying and something that you don't want to have to like go to, and you kind of see that where things are going, it could possibly go in that direction, and to try to avoid it would be Chernobyl. You know,
I've been hearing nothing but great things about that shit.
Man, like the message overall, like, and it really just shows what the pride and what the kind of stuff that we're seeing from people on the right who are making big decisions for the country and for, you know, for their people, but not really, whether it's blatant, just, you know, disregard for human rights, or that combined with, you know, just ignorance and pride, it fucking did something really, really devastating, you know, came from it. It really paints a gnarly picture that I was surprised, actually really, you know about communism, you learn about communism, you learn about, you know, Chernobyl and the effects that it had on, you know, or you read what happened, but like to see it dramatically played out so that you can get a perspective as to how gnarly it was and how evil essentially, you know, an ethos can be, if it's bad like that, you know, if it's meant to keep people from, you know, believing that we could be bad, or that we could be making mistakes, or that we could be doing anything wrong, you know, that we're not perfect, trying to control what people, you know about the real shit that's going on out there is pretty devastating. So can be pretty devastating. So this is a great documentary to kind of like, or not documentary. It's a great series for you to watch and check it out. Dramatization of what happened. Anyway, that's all we'll talk about for that. And we're wrapping it up. So did you have anything you wanted to promote?
Well, let's see. You know what? I'm gonna have some stuff soon to promote, so I don't have any action items right now. But I went to a local activist meeting for this group that I've kind of been tangentially involved with before. But I went to actually one of their planning meetings yesterday, and it was fantastic. We had a lot of like really cool ideas and things to kind of put out there, and even some ideas that actually I wanted to talk about, but we ran out of time today. So we'll be looking forward to that in a couple weeks here, because next week we've got on the wonderful Lawrence Gonzalez to talk about his entrepreneurship,
his
music,
arbitrage,
living a well-balanced life,
his arbitrage,
arbitrage.
It's my new favorite word, arbitrage.
Oh, it's such a great word.
Yeah.
And then, you guys can make sure you subscribe to the podcast on however you get your podcasts, including Spotify. Yeah. Oh, you thought I was going to say something weird this week?
No.
Well, you know what? I didn't. I got to switch it up, keep it
100
fresh. And 100, yeah.
And 100.
And if you guys want to follow my, my daily meltdowns about the end of the world, you guys can follow me on Twitter at PhilNobodyCares. And if you want to take a look at some of the cool shit that we are doing at E3 this year, behind the scenes stuff, check me out on Instagram at NobodyCaresPhil.
Yeah.
As for you, sir?
Well, you can see me up on this next week episode of Lifestyles and the Rich and Famous. I'll be on there going over like the water leaking through the top of my roof, and the crickets that have been getting into my room somehow. So, look forward to that. But
so like the Red Man episode.
Yeah, basically, but not as bad. That was pretty fucking disgusting. So no, you can follow me at Hoodrat Stuff with 3 Fs on Instagram, Facebook, obviously, David Amaya. And then you could also follow me or follow the Psychedelic Lions Den, psychedelic_lions_den. Check out all this dope art. If you have any art that you would love for us to share, tag us and we will fucking post it for you, because we're cool like that and you're cool like that. And as far as events, we've got next weekend, I have on Friday, B-Side LA is throwing a decompression party from the UNS Festival that just happened. And, it's going to be fucking epic. I'm going to have some of the gang from Psychedelic Lions out there doing some art and vending, and just come out, kick it. And so there's that. And I think that the next week, we're going to have Mutate, but we could talk about that later. Mutate as well as the Art in the Park. So stay tuned for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning in and listening to another episode of Let It Bleed. So from now, we'll just have to say goodbye. And I fucked that up because I already said let it bleed, but let it bleed anyways. Let it bleed all over the place. Just keep letting it bleed.
We're gonna cancel. We're gonna take the whole thing over again.
Oh fuck! All right, let's do it. Let's
go.
All right.
Ooh, let me reset. Cool. And go.
Welcome to the Let It Bleed pod.